What's up, Cougar Nation? Greg Wrubell here, your voice of the Cougars, with another Cougar Club Chalk Talk. Great to be with you. We just had a wonderful lunch provided by JCW's. Time to break down some BYU football. And so to do that, I have with me to my left, former BYU quarterback and current BYU radio analyst Riley Nelson, and to my right, former BYU and NFL All-Pro tight end and current Associate AD for Development, Chad Lewis. And we have for you 10 plays, 10 of our favorite plays from BYU's big win at Boise State. And so, let's break them down. All right, gentlemen, first play we're going to look at comes early in the game, Boise's first drive of the game, and this is Gabe Summers getting off his block in a big way.
My old teammate's son right here. I love that.
That's Hiram's kid?
Yep.
So this reminds me of back, obviously I played with a couple great, pros still in the Kyle Van Noy and Ziggy Ansah. Everybody remembers Kyle making so many great plays in the backfield. It was because Ziggy was eating up double teams. So while Gabe gets great effort and is able to get the sack home here, notice how right next to him, the left tackle is Kairos, and the center goes to the right? It was defensive left, offensive right, goes to the right, freeing Gabe up for a one-on-one. And man, you're just licking your chops as a defensive lineman to get one-on-one with a guard in a pass rush scenario like that. I love his rip through and then his pursuit of the quarterback. Look, he even that could have been a mild holding, but man, that's a motor right there.
I think he did some FBI kung fu fighting right there. So Hiram taught him something right there.
That's a get off me moment there from Gabe Summers. One of the great things about Gabe is he doesn't just make tackles, he makes impact tackles. So he's got 4 solo tackles on the year. 3 of them are for loss, and 2 are sacks.
At important times.
Yeah. From the tackle position on the defensive line, that's incredible production.
All right, play number 2 comes on BYU's second offensive play of the game. First drive, and it's a Tyler Algier taking it to the house, getting to the second level in a hurry, and off he goes. People always talk about, guys, something you underestimate with a former linebacker, just how fast this guy is.
Yep.
I mean, that backside corner, 21, gives up about, he doesn't chase him all the way because he knows he's not closing the gap.
But what about the umpire's
Shout
block
out to
right
the
here?
umpire.
Well, I was going to say, boom! There's 2 key blocks on this one, and we'll get it run back again. One is the umpire. That's the most obvious. But I want to point out Brady Christensen here. Watch him. He gets a 2-for-1 block right here. He washes down the tackle and then watch him come off and get the backer. That is the key to that play because that backer was the one guy left, at least on the initial run, right? You don't account for a backside corner in your blocking schemes, but that was the key block. He had to wash down the tackle and then get to the second level, and he just executes it textbook.
And Chad, what about Isaac Rex's involvement?
Well, I was just going to say this bountiful brave, Brady Christensen, we were just talking about it, one of the most well-liked guys on this team. He's unbelievable talent. His feet are like butterflies. He's just nice, quiet, quick feet. Isaac Rex has done a great job filling in for Matt Bushman. He's just manhandling dudes, climbing up to second level. 21's a fast player. And if he doesn't get a piece of him, he's going to be in contention to get Tyler right there. So Tyler, you just woke up Cougar Nation right there. Bam! Everyone in the whole country was on their feet watching that play. It was so sweet.
And the Cougs were in front early, and they would stay that way, never trailed in this game. And what you're seeing is the 5th longest rush in BYU football history. And again, one of the great things about Tyler Algier is the last time he played Boise State, he was a reserve linebacker leading BYU with 9 solo tackles. The next year he played Boise State, and he's doing this to them.
You can't hide talent. In basketball, they say the ball don't lie. Tyler Algier, he don't lie. He's legit.
What a valuable part of this BYU football team. All right, that's play number 2. All right, play number 3 happens in the second quarter and keeps Boise from getting any real momentum, and it ends up being the first career INT for Caleb Christensen.
I think the most important and first thing we have to point out here is that Caleb Christensen prepped in Cache Valley, fellow Cache Valley boy like myself. Now, he did go to the rival high school, Skyview High, which another Cougar that fans will remember out there, J.D. Falsliff. He was a slot receiver that I played with. So it's actually his high school. It was my rival high school, but great team effort here. So they're dropping 8, as you can see here, and they're doing a good job covering up. The whole point is keep everything in front of you and then try and get in. It's almost like a zone defense in basketball. Try and get in passing lanes, and that's exactly what happens here with it's Heron on the deflection, right? And then Christensen capitalizing on the pick. Good job keeping his feet in bounds.
I love Zach Daw from the get-go right here, putting pressure on the quarterback. His motor is unbelievable. He's an underrated guy. Look at him in the face of the quarterback, forcing him, flushing him to his right. The rest of the defense picked up the slack. The running back made a great little tackle right there and got swole up on our team, and our team said, "We just picked it." And so they kind of got in his face a little bit. That was kind of funny. Good tackle.
Yeah, and basically this was a key moment in the game because at this point, you know, they're bringing in the third-string freshman. They had actually gotten a couple first downs prior to this. He was maybe starting to feel a little bit of mojo, and then this was, I believe, on third down, just took all his confidence away and kept him shaky, kept him off balance, didn't let him get in any kind of rhythm. So this was really important play early on in the game.
All right, it's another defensive play now for BYU. Happens late in the second quarter. And again, prevents Boise from doing anything late in the half that might give them some momentum going into the locker room. And this is Kairos Tonga chasing after the quarterback might think, I've gotten rid of Big 95.
Oh my
And it's
goodness.
a strip from Kairos, a recovery from BYU. Cougars don't score on the ensuing offensive series, but they do start the second half with the ball scored there and they were off and running. But this was just just kind of a nice little exclamation point to end the first half.
Coming off a double team. He's quick enough feet to make the play. The quarterback realized that big guy could move. And I'm just going to go ahead and call him the JCW player of the play right here.
There you go. Hey, one of the things that I get most asked about from Cougar Nation out there is they express frustration, like, why aren't we bringing more people? Why are we always dropping 8? We're only rushing 3. Well, we've seen back-to-back plays. And look, it takes time. It was frustrating at times last year in the season when we weren't as good at running it. But we see here, big game on the road. Obviously, this is a cut-up, right? So these plays weren't sequential, but we're seeing 2 big plays made in a drop 8 scenario. When you can be disruptive as a defense and create turnovers in a drop 8 scenario, where for most defenses, that's kind of a prevent, sit back on your heels, just prevent the big play from happening. When you can turn the ball over in a drop 8 scenario, it just makes things so hard on an offense, because that's when you're supposed to have a little bit more breathing room. But the BYU defense this year has just kept the pressure on. Whether they're bringing 5 or 6 or they're dropping 8, they're causing havoc for opposing offenses.
It's sometimes tough for nose tackles to make a true impact on the stat sheet, but Kairos is one of those guys that does it both tactically and then he gets you numbers too.
And I don't care who's carrying the ball. You might just be a freshman quarterback. You might be a running back. When a bear paw comes ripping down on your arm like that, it's hard to hold on to the ball.
He had it tucked, but yeah, you're right. You get that big, thick hand that might as well be.
That's force.
Yeah, that's a brick right there coming down on it. And then obviously good job, rallying to the football, good pursuit. There was 2 or 3 Cougars there that would have hopped on that. I think it's Keenan Peely that ends up on it. But just good pursuit. There's such good team defense as we've seen all season, especially in Boise.
I love the emotion from the first snap of this game. It seemed like we were similar to just showing up playing Navy. We had the emotion as a team, and you have to have that in football. And they've kept that emotion up game to game each week this year.
There was a lot of talk about who Boise didn't have playing that night. Now, we should note the Cougars were not exactly at full strength either. Didn't get talked a lot about, but you're missing a starting safety in Zane Anderson. You're missing a tight end in Carter Wheat. They didn't have Keanu Hill for wide receiver depth that night.
And Matt Bushman.
And for the season. So.
And last year when we took them on, we were going with our third string quarterback, so we know the feeling. It's like, it's hard, but you got to rise up. That's football.
And you watch this game and you get the sense that it didn't matter who Boise would have played or not played in their lineup that night. BYU this was going to be BYU's night.
Yeah.
I think regardless of who Boise put out there, it was going to go for the Cougars.
It's a tough place to play. We've never won up there, and just credit the coaching staff, the players, the resilience, going up there with the right attitude, striking while the iron's hot with this year, the way it's going, and you're right, it was something special.
All right, third quarter is when BYU puts this thing away. 22-0 was BYU's third quarter scoring advantage, and we've seen Zach be so good and in such sync with his receivers on back shoulders this year. And this is the back shoulder plus, because it's back shoulder and a really high level of difficulty for Dax Milne going to the ground to get this one.
That was an acrobat right there. That was Peter Vidmar getting the gold medal, changing his body and making the play.
Yeah, good job, Zach. He's done such a good job in this all year, extending the play. And Zach's really athletic and can go make teams play or make teams hurt with his legs. You look here, it's drop 8, right? He's not really pressure, but he goes and extends. A guy like me, look at all that blue, not green grass, look at all that blue turf. I'm probably content. Go get the 7 or 8 yards that's needed for the first down and run out of bounds. What I love about Zach, and he's just feeling the mojo, is he's like, you know what? No, I'm going to throw a laser 50 yards down the field on the spot back shoulder to Dax Milne, who I have all the trust in the world in. Let me just make another point for quarterback play here. So, depending on your skill set, everybody makes this, when you have a one-on-one that's kind of outside the framework, you got to find a way to capitalize on it. What most quarterbacks do, and I consider myself when I was playing probably more most quarterbacks, but what makes Zach so special, you throw this up, what I was taught, or at least what my skill set allowed for, when I had a one-on-one like that, but my guy wasn't necessarily open, I put a lot of air on the ball. And not that I would throw it short on purpose, but you throw a lot of air on the ball, and basically what you're banking on is when your guy stops to come back for the football, the DB pass interference, he's not going to catch it. The DB runs him over, you get a flag, and you move forward 15 yards. What's so amazing about Zach is that he can put a throw on the money, so rather than just taking the pass interference call, moving the chains forward and taking 15 yards, he makes the defense hurt, he demoralizes them, and him and Dax and Gunner have been able to complete these balls for 40, 45, 50-yard chunks down the field.
Dax is just Mr. Consistency on this BYU football team. He's like old school BYU receiver, new school BYU receiver. His own little story with his mom and his cancer, their family, how tight they are. To see him come as a walk-on, earn the respect of every person on that sideline, and then every game show up and make plays. He's so fun to watch.
Who was a wide receiver you played with in your professional career that reminds you of the makeup of a Dax Milne?
My pro career, we got T.O. my last year. I'd never seen anyone work so hard. So much is made of his personality and whatever, but his effort, day in, day out, the consistency, just pouring it on. I feel like Dax is he's all effort and talent. He's got both. His route running is legit.
So as we're watching the loop here, I want one last time, and you can maybe go back and see this, but as we watch it complete, watch the sideline. This goes to what Chad was talking about. Look at all the entire sideline, the arms go, and yeah, part of that's because it's a big play, but that also means that his teammates, he's all in for them, and those dudes are all in for him. Like, the fact, you can tell a lot about how much a guy means to a team, the kind of player he is, the character he has, the work ethic he has, by the reaction of his teammates when he makes a play on the field. And look at that.
That's good.
All right, our next play we're going to see is another great job from a BYU defensive lineman, and he doesn't get a lot of pub, but he's got a lot of talent. His name is Seleti Fevaliaki. And he makes a play here that ultimately doesn't go as a TFL. It goes as a 1-yard gain by the spot, but this guy was going nowhere. That's running back Andrew Van Buren running into Big 44.
And look, there's a hole there, and he's getting ready to rip through that hole until there's a ginormous wall that comes right in front of his face.
I've been in scenarios like this before, and you're like, you get up after getting mauled to the ground, and you're like, where did that dude come from? Like, what the heck? I had a lane there. I was going to get 6 or 7. I'm already planning my move on the linebacker that I'm going to try and make to get into the second level of the defense, and instead, boom, you're face mask to face mask with a 300-pound defensive lineman who's just mauling you down to the ground. He does a great job here. For those that watch the NFL draft or things like that, they talk about defensive linemen in their hips. Go ahead and let it run. Just watch how he maintains leverage. So he's got the tackle. Low man wins. We've all heard that in football. Watch how he keeps his hips and his knees bent, which allows him to shuck the blocker and then be in a position to just absolutely swallow the running back. Textbook defensive line play right there.
And how great that BYU's been able to go as deep as they do with defensive linemen this year, and they're getting it from all over the depth chart right now up front.
That's interesting. That's something that Kalani's been saying for a year. He said, even when he was hoping for an extension, as we talked, he said, just be patient with me. I can see this coming. I can see it all coming. And we're as deep as we've ever been here. And just his confidence in his guys and his love for his players, you can see it growing. And then the depth, how guys are responding. That's really cool part of the culture that he's built here.
All right, next play we're going to look at location, location, location. And where this ball is located, only number 5 is going to get it, and he does. And the DB, all he can do is worry about tackling at that point.
At this point, my family, since we couldn't be at the game, we were in our living room jumping up and down, screaming. I mean, so pumped for Dax, so pumped for this team. Zach just ripping that ball in there. BYU offense playing great football.
Yeah, I mean, this is the complete offensive play, right? Look at the pocket. Again, I love what whether it's the offensive staff and their play calling, putting Zach, when you've got Dax and Gunner and the chemistry between Dax, Gunner, and Zach, you don't necessarily need a lot. Let those guys, this has become a common phrase, like let them cook, right? So when you've got chemistry like that with your wide receivers and your quarterback, you can max protect, which look at the pocket that Zach gets on this play, which allows him to absolutely, and then to Zach's individual strengths and talents, this is a one-on-one, deep ball towards the sideline, but rather than floating it up, it's actually a wheel route, as you can see here. But rather than floating it, which is probably what most quarterbacks do, he puts that thing on a line, which completely takes the safety help out of the play. And, executed to perfection.
The ball gets there too fast.
Yep.
Look at Jackson Kafusi's reaction. Grabs his head right here on the left. Yeah! I love it. Anytime as an offensive or defensive player, when you make a play and you get your teammates on the sideline to stand up and go bananas, when you're bringing energy, that nothing feels better.
And the number of long passes Zach can make with juice on it right now, I mean, it's really quite something. All right, now we come to the Isaac Rex portion of the program. He has 2 touchdowns, and we're going to see them both back to back.
I've known Isaac since he's a little kid. He and his dad have been coming to the Fathers and Sons sports camps at BYU, and it was his senior year at San Clemente when they went on a state championship run. I saw some of his clips, and I thought, he's going to be a great tight end at BYU. I was sad and mad and disappointed when Matt Bushman tore his Achilles to start the season because I thought he'd have 200 yards a game. And I've been so pumped watching Isaac fill in and step up and turn this school into a BYU tight end pipeline again. And his plays, this touchdown right here, pirouetting, catching a back shoulder ball, not losing a beat on his seam route, touchdown. And then the other one showcased Zach's. He's got a very strong arm. He just ran a simple hitch right here, and Zach whipped that thing in there. And it doesn't work unless you're going to rip that ball in there.
Chad, so when they came to the Fathers and Sons, did they do basketball too? Yeah. Because I can see this dude posting up on the block and being like, give me the ball for a post move. Because he does such a good job. That's such a luxury to have, and you got to have a lot of trust with your quarterback because the defender's right on his back, which you don't, that's not your ideal unless you know, hey, Rex is going to deliver for me. This there's no way he's going to let that defender come around and break up the pass. He's got it boxed up. He knows how to use his body. And so if I can just put it on his frame, he's going to be big and strong and come down with the catch for me on that one. And then this one, I love this reminds me of, now last year it was on the 4th down with a little bit more of some, window dressing on the play action, but that actually reminds me of the Matt Bushman touchdown from last year. Yeah, because we had that same double tight look to 2 tights to the same side with the wing. Now last year it was kind of the almost fake fumble, QB dive, and then raise up and hit Matt, which to me was one of the biggest plays of that game last year. Good to see him come back and capitalize on the red zone again this year.
So these 2 touchdown catches give him 6 for the year. Only 1 tight end in the country has more touchdown grabs than Isaac, and only 1 freshman has more touchdowns than Isaac. He's a redshirt freshman, of course, and that's 6 TD grabs for Isaac.
Yeah, every time he makes a big catch, I'm texting Byron, his dad, and I'm like, bro, he's such a great player. And Byron always says, man, we miss Matt. That's one of the first things he says. And if you see Isaac's arm, he always grabs a Sharpie and puts number 89 on his arm. He and Matt are close, and I think this team in general is very close. The way they support each other and play together, it's fun to be 8-0, and it makes it twice as fun that they love each other and they work hard together.
One last thing, Chad, I want to ask you, when you had a nickel back or when you had a DB lined up on you, because I got to imagine Isaac's just even though he knows he's got a hitch, he looks across the line of scrimmage and sees a dude who's like 5'10", 180 guarding him, and he's like, oh, give me the ball, right?
Especially knowing that he's going to run a hitch right there. It's a physical mismatch. Zach's got a strong enough arm, he can put it on either shoulder. So, I mean, Isaac's got to be like, oh, please throw it my way. Those are fun times.
All right, the next two plays we're going to look at come late in the game. Both come relatively near the goal line. First one is a wide receiver screen that BYU favors. They ran it most recently, I think, for a touchdown at Houston with a different receiver. I think it was Dax at the time. And they've also run it with Gunner, and this time it's Neil Pau getting in the screen mix very close to the goal line.
And credit Coach Grimes and Aaron Roderick for putting in a nice little motion here. It's a little confusing, people going a couple different directions. We got trips on the left and only 2 defenders. They were late to pick it up. Neil Pau, touchdown. You
know what I love about this? This is classic Boise. If you think back a decade ago with, recall to the, I'm blocking on his name, Kellen Moore. Yeah, the Dallas Cowboys guy now. But they would just shift all over the place, and defenses were scrambling. Just like we see here. Look, shift out to empty. There's only 2 Boise defenders out on 3 receivers, right? He recognized it late, but by that time it's done. So this is almost, I like, this is, if you follow the game really closely, you notice stuff like this where this is quintessential Boise, and you did it to them on their home turf. It's stuff like that offensive staffs and coordinators, when they're drawing up game plans, stuff that they take a lot of pride in. And then just another thing, look at the linebackers coming up into the A gaps. They're crowding the line of scrimmage. Everyone on that defense thinks that it's QB sneak, and we throw it out to a wide receiver screen that's easy. And you mentioned that it's Neil on this one. Obviously, you can't be predictable, but to me, Neil's the ideal guy. He's quick enough that he can make a move if he needs to, but also he's the biggest body down there that if all he needs to do is catch it and fall forward, he can.
It starts in heavy, ends up in spread, 3 tight ends on the field, 1 acting as a fullback in Mason Wake, and you end up throwing wide receiver screen.
And it's good for tape for the rest of the season. So North Alabama, San Diego State, they have more to prepare for in the red zone.
Yeah, because you bring out 3 tight ends. So you look at your personnel grouping here, and you got 3 tight ends, and you're like, uh-oh, you mean they can score with 3 tight ends out of empty? What do we even do here? Feel bad for opposing defensive coordinators.
All right, the last play we're going to see actually sets up what ended up being BYU's final score, that short touchdown end around from Tyler Algier. So we're not going to see the Algier run. We are going to see the Wilson to Romney pass that sets it up. And yet another example, guys, of Zach using the whole field and getting the ball exactly where it needs to go to his guy on a rope.
And the offensive line using the whole field. Well, look at the great protection from this great offensive line. They spread this defensive line out, gave Zach plenty of time, and as he's the conductor of the orchestra here, changing the play, telling Gunner to scoot to the left, and then he rips a hose right down to the sideline. Let's Gunner catch another ball on the 1-yard line. I love it.
So everybody's been in love with Zach and his arm. And by the way, it's significant, the improvement being another year post-op, right? He had that, we all know he had that shoulder surgery after his freshman year and things like that. But I love what you can see about his thought process. So comes out, this is max protect, so he knows he's got time to go back there and, as Chad said, conduct the orchestra, right? Now, the next thing that he knows, he's like, I got a 2-man route, basically. You have Algiers coming out of the backfield, but he's really just a check down. So, and they're dropping 7. So he's got, but once you get down the field, essentially both Dax and Gunner in this play are double teamed. What I love is that he waves him to the sideline. And again, just like we talked about earlier, taking the safety out of the play, when he tells Gunner, hey, go to the sideline, he throws it out there knowing that this is all reward and basically no risk. If Gunner doesn't catch this ball falls incomplete, harmlessly out of bounds. He is not putting the ball in danger's way, and that to me is he has taken as much as he's taken giant steps forward physically from last year to this year, I think he's taken leaps forward mentally in the way that he protects the footballs, the decisions he makes, and then the calculated, like you don't complete this many balls for this many chunks down the field without seeing the game on a different level, right? The defenses against him are playing checkers. He's playing chess, and that's why we've almost come to expect 3 or 4 of these 40, 50-yard bombs a game.
How about the wave, too, from Zach to Gunner?
Yeah.
kind of a backyard element.
Backyard. And watching the TV copy, you could see into Zach's face all game. Even when he was backed up throwing from his own end zone, he had a confident look about his face. Never one time is he wide-eyed this year. It's just like, give me the ball. I want to rip this thing.
Yep.
Gunner's running more or less down the middle, looks back, sees Zach's wave, changes his path, and ends up having the ball fall right in the breadbasket, coming out of the end zone. And again, Tyler Algier would score very soon thereafter. Well, that's it. Our 10 favorite plays from the Boise State game. Really hope you enjoyed the breakdown. And a special shout out and thank you to all of our out-of-state Cougar Club members. We do our best to get great BYU content to you in whatever way possible, finding a way to connect with you, keep you a part of our family. We really do hope you enjoyed today's Cougar Club Chalk Talk. For Riley Nelson and for Chad Lewis, my name is Greg Wrubell. Have a great week and go Cougs.